Right, everybody. So glad that you made it out for Rule Your Results. I've been excited about this for a while. I hate that we had to reschedule, but last week Stephen had a football banquet and certainly needed to be able to attend that. It's his senior year. And one of the reasons that I'm doing all of this, the way that I do it, is because I wanted to be available for my boys. Some of you may have gotten the email today that sent you to my paulbevans.com site, and you saw a picture of Sherry when she was pregnant with Sam, and that was in 1992. Sam was born March 27th, 1993, and Sherry passed away just 5 short weeks out after that. And she had viral meningitis. Often people ask what happened, but it's viral meningitis. And I made the decision at that time that I was going to be available, that I was going to have time to do what I needed to do when I needed to do it. And Rule Your Results is a lot of the principles that I use to conduct my business and to conduct my life. So if you're in business, this will certainly help you. If you're an online business, it'll really help you streamline and tighten some things. And if you're just wanting to set some goals that you want to reach, this will help you as well. It's not goal setting per se. I think there's been enough about that, but it's rules surrounding the actual achievement, the actions of things that you are doing as you pursue the goal that really need to be recorded if you're going to be able to repeat those results time and time again. So Rule Your Results, a brutally simple system for unreasonable achievement. Now, if you want to print out the PDF, either right now or later on as you come back and watch this again, you can go to paulbevans.com/rule notes/rule notes. Write that down real quick because we are about to move on. All right, so I promised that everybody who attended tonight would get the Human Time Machine software, and at the end of the presentation, I will give you a link that you will be able to go and download that. You'll actually set up a username and a password, and then you'll go to the page that will give you the webinar, it'll give you the software, it'll give you the user guide, and it'll give you a 22-page report to help you stay focused and on fire. So that will be revealed at the end. You may be thinking, now why in the world is he doing that? Why won't he just send out the link? Because I think it's critical that we've got the rules in order to use the software the way that we need to use it. So I'm requiring everybody to actually watch the presentation in order to get the software. I don't think that's too small of a price to pay, and it's certainly going to change your results in your business and in your life. Goals are the desired destination. That's an important phrase. When we set a goal, we are thinking about this thing that we want to achieve, whether it's weight loss or whether it's more profits or whether it's a better relationship. The goal is the actual desired destination. It's what we have in mind. And here's something that we need to be thinking about, and that is that we end up formulating our goals in a way that does not account for the mistakes, the missteps, the unforeseen circumstances, the things that just go wrong. When we tend to plan goals, we tend to plan them perfectly. So if I've decided that I'm going to go out and make an extra $1,000 this month, what I'll picture is that I'm going to take this step to build my list, this step to create a relationship, and this step to make an offer and make sales. And I'll picture all of that. But what I won't think about is things that can go wrong. What if the message is too spam oriented and the delivery rate is super low? What if my website goes down on the day of the launch? I don't think about any of that, right? Because when it comes to goal setting, we tend to set those perfectly. We tend to plan out our actions, and we believe that if we will take the steps that we have designed, then the outcome is guaranteed. And yet all of us would probably agree that we've set goals, we've taken the steps, and we've not actually reached the goal or the desired destination. It just didn't happen the way that we thought it would and the way that we had planned. Results, on the other hand, reveal the actual destination. Results are what we actually gain. Regardless of what the goal was, there is always a result. And too many times we tend to discount that. If we didn't reach the goal, we think we failed. Now, we'll have some platitudes along the way that'll say, well, we learn things in our failures and our mistakes. We say that, but the question is, do we actually do that? Do we actually record the positive result and what it took to get there? And so that's a big, big key. So we've got to be concentrating on being able to move ahead and get a result, and then document that so that we can repeat that result over and over again. So that's the real key to this, because a goal alone is not going to make us successful. It's focusing on those end results and those steps along the way that are going to help us. So here's an example. Since we're getting close to the new year at the time of this recording and presentation, let's say that I want to lose 10 pounds. I actually need to lose about 20. I've been so concentrating on eating, I think I've actually mastered it. So I've gained some weight over the past couple of months. I need to lose more than 10 pounds. But let's say that the goal is 10 pounds. So I've got 1 to 10 there. And I'm looking to lose that over 60 days, which is actually possible given my frame and what I know about exercise and nutrition. So I plan out my workouts and I plan out what I'm going to eat and when I'm going to eat it. And that is the goal that I've set. But what if the result is that I actually lost 6 pounds? Okay, I didn't reach the goal. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't everything that I dreamed of, but I still had a loss of 6 pounds. So I may say that I've learned that diet plus exercise plus stress equals 6 pounds and not 10 pounds. But I've learned this, and I understand that if I'll take this particular diet, this particular nutrition scheme, this particular set of exercises done at certain intervals, plus the level of stress that I happen to have at that time in my life, it's going to equal 6 pounds. And if I can repeat that fairly closely, I'm going to get that same result again. I might not get 10 pounds, but now I know how to lose 6 pounds. I can go back and I can shift the diet, I can shift the exercise, and I can end up possibly getting closer to the 10 pounds. But it's not that I didn't achieve anything at all. I may not have reached my goal, but I did gain a result. And that's going to help me in the future, either as I set goals that are more attainable, which I don't think is necessarily critical, but it will help me get that action in place, achievement in place, so that I'm able to repeat it. So that anytime that I want to do this, I can call it up at will. Now, I know that Lane and Sue are on here tonight, and both of them in their businesses have launched products that have been successful. And if they go back and do something fairly similar to that, they can get a similar result. Not an identical result, but they can get a similar result because they've taken those steps before. And so I'm going to show you during this presentation as well how to really gain that, write it down, and make sure that you're able to achieve those things. So we're going to cover 4 rules of results. And the reason we design rules is the conflict between values and behavior. So when behaviors conflict with values, we have to make rules. And that's what happens in our own life in general. So that we've got a value, and let's say that our value is that we really want to be healthy, but our behavior is that we love bacon and donuts. And who doesn't? Because I eat them all the time along with hamburgers. So my behavior does not match my value, the thing that I really want to accomplish. So there's conflict there. So I have to set rules. And my rule is going to be that I'm going to have to eat healthy a certain number of meals a day or a certain number of meals per week in order to achieve this result. Let's say in business, my value is that I really want to become wealthy, that I want to create a profitable business. But my behavior is I stay on Facebook all the time talking about things that don't matter, posting pictures that nobody cares about, and sharing videos or cartoons that, are humorous, but they're not going to lead to the bottom line. So we make a rule that says I can only be on Facebook 15 minutes a day until I hit profits of X. So rules help us to shape our life in a way that bring about our values. So whatever your goal is, whatever your desire is, whatever you want to accomplish, the key is really centering on these 4 rules. So rule number 1, control your time and you control your destiny. Control your time and you control your destiny. Most of us, when we set goals, we don't set goals related to time other than a deadline. But we don't think about the actual time that we have in order to accomplish a certain goal. I'm using diet and exercise a lot tonight because it's pretty easy for us to get to understand. Most of us have at some point decided that we were going on a diet or we're going to eat healthier. But here's what we don't think about. When we say I'm going to eat healthier, we don't think when I go through a drive-through, it takes me about 5 minutes. But if I'm going to cook a really healthy meal, it might take me 10 minutes. It might take me 20 minutes. It might take me 30 minutes. So it's going to take me more time. But we usually don't put that in there. We don't plan with time in mind. But it's the only thing that we have. It's what we get to measure and massage in a way that's going to help us achieve that goal. So it's pretty critical that we get focused on our time and that we become possessive and almost consumed about our time. And we're going to block it out in a way that gives us permission to tell other people no. And then at other times we can tell them yes. Those of you who have been around me for a while know that I get up early. So this rule is a little bit easier for me. I tend to wake up at 4 in the morning. Nobody gets up around here till 5:30, but even then, my kids are older now, and they're getting out the door about 7:30 in the morning. So from 4 to about 7, there's just a block of quiet. There's nothing there. I'm able to control that time, and I don't have to worry about interruption. But if I did have to worry about the interruption, then I may have to say to my family between 4 and 5 a.m., I just don't need to be bothered then, because I've really got to be working on X, Y, and Z. Or during the week, I decide that I'm going to really focus on being available to my kids and all of their activities. And I plan that ahead of time and I make adjustments in all of my goal setting activities and actions that I'm going to do. So I've got to make sure that I'm controlling my time. You've got to make sure that you're controlling yours. There's two types of time if you're filling in the blanks on your sheet. Fixed is controlled by others. The first type of time is fixed. It's controlled by others. If you're working full time, you've got a big block every single day that's controlled by other people. If you've got young children and you're helping them get ready for school in the morning, or you're getting breakfast ready, that time is fixed. It's controlled by your children. After Sherry passed away and I was a single dad and I was getting up with all the feedings during the night, I was getting up and waking Sam up in the morning and feeding him then, taking him to daycare before I went to work. That was fixed time. It was controlled by Sam. I didn't go, hey, listen, I know you're crying at 2 a.m. You just got to hold off on that. Daddy can't be interrupted. This is Daddy's time. I didn't do any of that because Sam controlled that time, and he should. So when we're thinking about fixed time, it's the time that is controlled by others. Now, maybe we gave them permission, such in the case of Sam, or maybe others have the right to control it because they're paying us. So in a job, it's fixed time. You've got to know those numbers. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. And then flow time is controlled by you. So you now get to control this. You have access to it. You know how many hours a day that you have or how many hours a week that you have that are yours. They actually belong to you. You have the right to determine their use without interruption unless there's an emergency. But you become pretty stringent about this and you announce it to your friends, to your family, whoever needs to know that this is the time that you're in charge of, and so you've designed it a certain way so that your friends know that if every Thursday night you're actually hosting a webinar from 7 to 8:30 every single Thursday night, well, guess what? Your friends, your family should know that that's going to be your time, that it's not to be infringed on. It should be on their calendars that that's time that you're not available. So it's not simply that you're planning out your schedule without considering anybody else or not, but you're thinking about that time. You're letting other people know as well so that you are able to control it. And that can be with business. In that example, it could be with exercise so that they know that every night you're going to go running from 7 to 7:30 or 7 to 7:45. Then it's an actual known part of your schedule, and other people will respect that. What's not respected is when something comes up or you weren't filled in on the schedule and then you end up saying that you just can't make it because of this unknown to them that'd been in your head the whole time. So you got to make sure that everyone around you is aware. So this is what it might look like. The green is actual flow time, and the red is fixed time. So let's say from 7 to 8:15 in the morning, you've got some flow time. You're actually in control of it. But from 8:15 up until about noon, it's fixed. From noon to 1, let's say it's a lunch hour, it's flow. From 1 all the way down till you get home, say at 5:30 or 6, it's fixed. You can't do anything about it. Somebody else controls it. It could be that traffic is controlling it. From 6 to 7, maybe you've got flow time. But 7 to 8:30 is just family time, or 7 to 9 is family time. So it's fixed. Somebody else is controlling that. You give them permission, but they're controlling it. And then from 9 up to, say, 10:30 or 11, and that's another chunk of flow time. It's time that you control. And even that, for some folks, may be a lot of free time. But you've got to understand that that time is actually available to determine how you're going to use it, or if you're going to give it up and give the right to someone else to utilize that time. So as you're focusing on your time that you're going to be scheduling, make sure that you understand what your flow time is and understand what your fixed time is. So rule number 1 is that you control your time, you control your destiny. Rule number 2, you control your thoughts. Rule number 2, you control your thoughts. So instead of letting your mind wander, get aggressive with your head, stop letting just anything in. You got to be selective. Stop letting it go wherever it wants to go all the time. And usually we do. Usually we just allow our minds to run free, just to allow anything to enter it, anything to captivate it, anything to capsize it. I can't tell you the number of people in business that will get maybe one negative email and it just bothers them to no end. But that's because we're not controlling our mind. I mean, it's just one person. It's no big deal. We've got a right to fire them if we want to, right? It's not a big deal. Now, if we feel like it's worth saving that relationship, it's fine to do that, but not with negative energy. If we're looking at Facebook, let's say, and there's something that's gone viral on there, and it's requiring a lot of feedback or a position or an opinion, I think we've seen that recently, then it can consume us so that we feel like we need to make our own post about that. And then we need to go and comment on everybody else's post that's similar to that. See, that's allowing just anything to take place, and we're not really aggressively ruling our thoughts. So we can't let our mind go anywhere that it wants to go the way that it wants to go. Because when we do that, we lose control. We don't work as hard. We don't stay as focused. We aren't as productive. We don't take as much action. And we spend our time in the mental instead of in the physical. It doesn't matter how much I think about eating healthy. I've got to eat healthy. I can think about eating healthy all I want. But if I continue to eat junk all the time, it doesn't matter how much I thought about it. It only matters what I did. And that's a critical aspect to grab hold of, because where we're spending our time and thought still has to be translated into action. So focusing on your goal requires taking your thoughts captive, and you can't afford to get distracted, because when you waste time, you waste momentum. So that flow time that you have, you might actually designate part of that just for relaxation, just for fun reading, or even watching television. I don't think all of that is bad. But once you have your time allocated toward your goal, then these other pursuits, especially if they're minor, should not be given time in your mind. Because when you're wasting that space, you're wasting time and you waste your momentum, and you're not able to really get going forward. So when you're writing an article, say for your blog, and you hear your email alarm or your messenger bong or your social media alert, and you actually follow like Pavlov's dog, you're not controlling your thoughts. They are controlling you. If you got that alert set on Facebook and you hear that ding while you're writing an article, now how many times do you on autopilot go over and check that message? Or if you still have an email system that alerts you when you get an email, or heaven forbid it notifies you by a text message, you get that alert and you follow after it, you're not controlling your thoughts. They're controlling you. So we need to be like Winnie the Pooh when he was going, think, think. Oh, bother. He was always thinking about thinking. You know, it was hard for Pooh. I think for a lot of us, we struggle with thinking when it's precise and when it's intentional. I think all of us have scattered thinking. We're thinking all of the time, and our mind's going wherever it wants, however it wants, without any structure and without being commanded. So we've got to sit down and actually think about thinking to control our mind instead of allowing it to do just whatever it wants. So, number one, you need to think specifically. Concentrate on being precise. So let's say that you're moving on goal X and you're taking action Y. How exactly will Y help you achieve X? How exactly will it help you achieve X? So if you tell yourself, I need to build a list in order to grow my online business, you've got to think specifically, not simply about list building, but the type of list you want, the number of folks you want on your list, how tightly targeted that list is going to be, what is the average individual going to be like, what's going through his or her head, what is most precious to them, most important to them, so that I'm not thinking globally, I'm thinking a lot more specifically, I'm thinking precisely. So when I decide that I'm going to go on a diet, and I'm going to start out in the morning by eating some eggs, maybe a couple of yolks are in there, and I'm eating 4 eggs, two yolks are included, and everything else is egg whites. You know, why do I do that? I look at the protein count and I decide exactly the number of grams of protein that I need for each meal. And the reason I'm thinking about that is because I know that protein is going to raise my metabolism. It's going to help me build muscle. I know that the more muscle I build, the higher my metabolism will be, my just base metabolic rate. And I also know that it's going to help me burn fat a lot easier. So I'm thinking a lot more specifically about what I'm eating, or I'm thinking more specifically about the action that I'm taking so that I understand exactly how it contributes to the end goal or to the result that I get so that I'm not surprised by it. See, if I don't know exactly how it's contributing, I can take an action. I might get a result and not pay any attention to that result and just keep going. But if I'm going to be intentional and I take the action, I get the result, I can now document it so I can go back and repeat that over and over and over again. So think specifically. Secondly, think profitably. Concentrate on your current action and complete it. That way you can lay down at night knowing you've been productive. You can rest in the confidence that the day was not a waste, but profitable toward your goals. It doesn't mean that we achieve everything in a day, but we are able to lay down at night and go, all right, I did that. I did accomplish that. I did take that step. All right, I didn't run the 5 miles that I wanted to, but I did run 3. So you know what you did, and you know that you are taking the step toward the goal, and you know that you're making an actual contribution. The danger comes when we've been taking some profitable steps and we feel like we deserve a break or we deserve some time off. But we've got to be thinking about momentum and about consistency so the cumulative effect of all these actions give us that profitable goal. And it helps us so much more than if we're taking that occasional action. So we want to concentrate on current action and we want to complete it. It's so easy to get distracted and to go after the hottest new item, the hottest new idea, or to come up with a new idea yourself and decide midstream that you're going to make the switch and you're going to do something totally different. A few years ago, I decided to enter a half marathon. I got ready, I think in about 6 weeks, and I'd not been running at all. What I did was that I went and typed in marathon training. I downloaded the first plan that came up, and that's the only thing that I did. I didn't buy 50 books and try to study it. I didn't study a bunch of diet stuff and carb loading stuff or any of that. My goal was to complete it. So all I did was download that one training program, and I did that. And that was it. So whatever you're working toward, you want to stay on task. You want to take the action. You want to complete the action. And then third, think directionally. Concentrate your internal GPS. Where do you want to go? What will it look like when you get there? What will it take to get there? And those are questions that you ask every single day to help you realize you're on track. Your GPS should become your guide and filter for any diversions or side roads. So you know that this is the direction you're going and what you're wanting to accomplish. Then when you're going down the road and you see that side turn that you kind of want to go and explore, and you go, I don't know where that's going to come out. I don't know where I'm going to end up. There could be a cliff at the end of that road. I don't want to go down there and get stuck. I don't want to go down there and run out of gas, because if it becomes our filter, then we don't do the offshoots. If I actually decide that I'm going to lose that weight, then I need to decide ahead of time that I'm never turning in Dunkin' Donuts. I'm not doing it unless I have permission on like 1 or 2 days during the whole course. But instead, it becomes my filter. And once I think directionally, then anything that comes up, I've got to ask, is this going to help me reach the end result, or is it going to prevent me from reaching the end result? So think directionally. So rule number 2, control your thoughts. Rule number 3, control your actions. And this is going to be some critical steps for you to take in order to make sure that your outcomes are actually predictable. So fixed times, we talked about, is controlled by somebody else. Flow times controlled by you. Your fixed actions are controlled by another, but your flow actions are controlled by you. So you know how much time you have. You've now got to fill that time with the correct action. So if you've got a 15-minute block, then you probably know that you're not going to be able to write a 5-page blog post in 15 minutes, right? So we've got to be correlating our actions to the amount of flow time that we actually have. Now, what's strange is what takes place with fixed actions. Things actually become like autopilot, almost like a zombie. How many people do you know that just drive to work, same route every single day, could do it blindfolded? They get to work, they stumble in, they go through the motions. It's almost like they're a zombie, right? And what we want to do is make sure the actions we control, both at work, both our fixed actions and our flow actions, are a lot more energized than that. The average person is living a mediocre, rote, monotone, routine, colorless, drab, flat life. Not much energy, not much excitement, not a lot of intentionality in the actions that they're taking. I learned to actually control my actions from Stephen. Stephen is there on the left. Jose is there on the right. We sponsor Jose. He is with the City of Angels down in Mexico. And this picture is from one of our trips down. But I actually learned to control my time from Stephen. He's a somewhat of a gamer. He doesn't play as much games now as he used to, but he'd be playing games. And as a parent, I'd be like, that boy's not doing his homework. Boy ain't doing his chores. I don't like that. So I'd be like, Stephen, done your homework? No, sir, I'm going to do my homework at 6. I'd be like, right. But I'd watch him, and it didn't even matter if he was in the middle of a game. He would cut it off at 6 o'clock sharp. Every single time. I thought it was weird. He'd cut it off. He'd quit playing. He'd just put down the controller. He'd go do his homework. So one day I eased in and I said, how's the homework going? He said, it's going good. I said, how much you got? And he said, well, tonight's going to take me from 6 to about probably about 6:43 or 6:45. I was like, what? And he said, yeah, tonight's homework's going to take me this amount of time. I said, so you not only know when you're going to do your homework, you know how much time your homework's actually going to take. And he said, yeah, I can pretty much guess within about 5 minutes how long my homework's going to take. And that's a critical lesson, because if we're really going to be productive, and if we're really going to achieve the results that are going to lead to the goal that we desire, then we've got to be able to predict ahead of time the amount of time the action is going to take. So number 1, plan what? Write down exactly what you want or have to do. If you want to write an article, create a website, work out, go to work, whatever, you got to plan what. This is the thing that you are going to do. It is the end result that you want. So it could be that I want to write an article. So that's my what. Number 2 is to plan when. Set a specific time in which to do it. Could be 8:15 a.m., could be noon, could be 7:10 p.m., doesn't matter. You're going to be able to schedule that according to the actual flow time that you have. And back to fix and flow real quick, that chart that you saw early on, you need to take something like that and journal your entire week. Just make blocks and write down what's fixed and write down what's flow. Don't do it ahead of time. Don't simply sit down with your week and plan it out that way. Go ahead into your week as it stands and record it, because chances are whatever you put down as flow time is not your true flow time. It's what you're guessing is your time. So instead, live your life like normal, but record everything that you do so that you can find out when your actual flow time is and when your fixed time is. So number one was to plan what? Number two is to plan when you're going to, say, write that article. Number three is to plan width. How long will the task take? Specifically, the first time you ever do a task, it's a complete guess. But start a journal where you record the exact amount of time you spend on specific actions. Then the next time you plan, you'll have a close guess to the actual time needed. The first time that I ever installed a blog, it took me about an hour because I was terrified, I was scared, I didn't know what I was doing, and I was trying to watch videos and I was trying to figure it all out. Now, because I've installed probably hundreds of blogs by this time, just using something like Fantastico in the cPanel, it takes what? 2 minutes, 3 minutes max. So if I was planning on installing a blog, originally I might have said it took an hour. But now I can say it takes 5 minutes. So I can plan my width. The first time that I wrote an article, I really wanted it to be the best thing that anyone had ever read, even though I'm from Alabama and grammar is optional. So I wrote it out and I started planning it and writing it and editing it. It took me hours. It took me hours to write this article that nobody read. So I didn't have anybody come into the blog. But it took me hours. But now I realize that the average article is probably going to take me about 20 minutes. So when I sit down and I plan width and I'm writing an article, I can say it's going to take 20 minutes. If I'm going to go and work out and it's arm day, I know it's going to take about 20 minutes. If it's leg day, it's going to take about 40 minutes. So there's differences there. I can plan my width because I've taken these actions before and I know how long they take. You need to know as close as possible with anything that's repetitive. You need to know how long it takes or else you can't schedule accurately. And what happens is you get frustrated, you get overwhelmed, and you get angry because it didn't come off the way that you thought it would. Instead of saying, all right, I can plan this out, and as long as there's no interruptions, I'm going to be able to write that article in 30 minutes. And you know that, so you can plan with. So as you plan your work for each day, or as you plan your fitness goal for that day, or as you plan spiritual growth for the day or personal growth for the day, anything that you're scheduling, you should know how long it's going to take. And you can't guess at that because of rule number one. Control your time, you control your destiny. If we're simply guessing, then it means that we're going to allocate too much time for some things that don't take much time at all, and we're going to schedule too little time for some things that really are going to take a massive block. So we've got to be concentrating on that. And then number four is to plan wealth. Plan wealth. Create a picture of the result. What will happen when you do the task? Are you one step closer to the weight loss goal? One step closer to a product release? One step closer to impacting lives? One step closer to a promotion? So you think about the end result of doing X, Y, and Z. So as you take that action, you know exactly what it's doing for you, that you know that it is simply a step, that it's not the entire procedure, that it's part of the overall plan. It's not the plan itself. And that releases us and makes it a little bit easier for us to gain that momentum when we think about those steps, instead of thinking that I've got to accomplish everything in this single sitting, in this single time period, in this single workout. Because our best shifts, our best on the day that we feel healthy and we feel energized is different than our best on the day that we've got the flu. It's just going to be different. It can't help but be that way. And we're going to have sick days, and we're going to have off days. We're going to have days in which our mind seems to process extremely rapidly. And there's going to be other times when our thinking seems extremely fuzzy. And if we can't say that our best shifts, then we're always going to be disappointed. Because if we think that the best that we ever do on that day that we were the hottest, the smoothest, the fastest, if we think that that's the standard, we'll always be disappointed. Because we can't function at that highest level all of the time, because we've got to know there's going to be the off days. So even on the off days, we plan that wealth, and we may say, you know what, I still ate good, or halfway decent today, given that I had the flu, but I still progressed toward my goal. All right, I only got a couple of sentences written today because I just didn't feel good, or it just wasn't clicking, but at least I wrote those 2 sentences. See, the goal, the desired destination may have been the article. The result, the actual destination, may have been 2 sentences, but that doesn't mean it was a failure. It was still a contribution, and there was still wealth that was created. So those 3 points again: plan what you have to do, plan when, schedule it, plan with, how long it's going to take, and plan wealth. How is this going to help you move closer to the goal? So part of your life is doing what we have to do when we have to do it, as is told to us by other people. But when it comes to actions that you're in control of, you must be intentional. You have to be focused and really get gorilla on the goal. You've got to get pretty excited about the goal. So approach your actions with aggressiveness. That's why you want to stay away from all the extra activities. You want to make sure, and you've heard it 1,000 times, shut down Facebook, shut down your email, shut off your phone. That's why you want to do all of that, so that you can actually aggressively attack the action for that planned period of time. This is from the book No Excuses from Brian Tracy. Successful people make a habit of doing the things unsuccessful people don't like to do. Successful people are more concerned with pleasing results, whereas failures are more concerned with pleasing methods. Most people out there want to have the result come quickly, have the goal come quickly, and as easily and as painless as possible. Successful people want the pleasing result, even if it's very painful to get there. The unsuccessful want the pleasing result, but they want it to be very easy and fun all along the way. I'm not saying those are mutually exclusive, but the bottom line is, whatever our goal is, it's going to take us work. It's going to be tough at times. Some of it's going to be fun, and sometimes we're just going to have to get out there and make a habit of doing the things that unsuccessful people don't like to do. Rule number 4, control your reactions. So rule number 3 was control your actions. Rule number 4, control your reactions. We're going to look at this in a couple of different ways. We've been talking about controlling your time, thoughts, and actions, but you can't control everything, and you certainly can't control people. There's no telling what those crazy folks may say or do. So number 1, advance decisions. Chances are high that nothing unusual derailed you in the past. Most things can have a premeditated response. You already know 90% of what you'll come up against. So you make advanced decisions, so that when you plan out your flow time and you've got an hour block to write that article, then the advanced decision is that you don't answer your phone. The advanced decision is that you do cut off distractions. The advanced decision is that you let family, friends, and associates know that you can't be bothered during that specific time. If you're working out and you know that you're passing your favorite restaurant every single day on the way back, and you know that you're going to feel weak, you know you're going to feel dehydrated, you know that if you went in and ate within 10 minutes, not only would you be re-energized, but the food would actually make you happy, then guess what? There's an advanced decision that has to be made that you're not going to be stopping there, regardless of how tempting it is. So make your advanced decision. It's a big key in ruling your results. 90% of what's going to trip you up, what's going to derail you, you already know. It's not a surprise. that people demand your time. It's not a surprise that people demand your attention. It's not a surprise that when your favorite show comes on during a time that you scheduled to do some work, that you're going to want to go and watch that show. It's not a shock. It's not a surprise if 5 minutes before you start working, your best friend calls you and wants to take you out for a special dinner. It's not a surprise that you're going to want to go, but you say no because you've got your premeditated response. You make advanced decisions if you really want to reach the goal. Number 2, arrest emotions. When it comes to reacting, more emotion is not better. This happened a few years ago. I was in India, and when we were leaving the airport, actually our flights were canceled, and we had to go and make our next flight in Delhi, which meant that we had to actually drive through a portion of the Himalayas. It was a 13-hour trip. So we had a friend who owned an SUV, and he was a private driver in the area, and he pulled up to get us. Well, what we didn't know is that there were a line of taxi drivers there, and you had to use the next taxi in line. So when he pulled up to pick us up, the taxi drivers, about 20, surrounded his vehicle and demanded that we get in the next available taxi. Of course, we didn't understand what was going on. The interpreter said, they said that you will take their taxi, or that they will dismantle the SUV and then disassemble the driver. It's a fairly violent threat, right? So the high emotions. Obviously, we took the next cab in line. Now that sounds out of line, but it happens in our business or in our life all the time. So that we can feel like we're doing pretty good on diet, but somebody can say something negative to us and we just explode because we feel like they're not appreciating what we're doing. Or in business, we can have somebody that contacts us and is dissatisfied with something and get really upset. I've mentioned before on some webinars about a guy that wrote to me. This is definitely extreme. This is super rare. But a guy wrote to me because I had a webinar like this that was available for a certain amount of time, and then I took it down. Well, he got mad. And he wrote and he said, I can't believe that you took that down. Nobody in this business keeps their word. And you kept your word. And I'm so angry. I want to smash your head in with a rock. All right. So he needed to arrest his emotions. But I didn't get upset because I knew that person was unstable. Most of the people who come to you highly agitated are actually unstable. So that's probably what needs to go through your mind instead of getting defensive. Almost every time somebody comes against us, we tend to get defensive. Don't worry about that. Arrest your emotions if you want to rule your results. And then third is accurate assessment. Don't overreact if things don't go your way. I hear people say things like, I'm a complete failure. I never do anything right. Do you know that that's actually impossible? It's impossible to be a complete failure. It's impossible to never do anything right. It can't happen. But we overreact. We don't rule our reactions. We get crazy, we get down on ourselves, we get frustrated, and we go to an extreme. But if we have an accurate assessment, we'll say, you know what? I blew it. I blew it today. I did not accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. Well, that's accurate. Saying that I'm a complete failure is not accurate at all. So take an accurate assessment of your actions to determine exactly what contribution was made without being overly down on yourself if you don't reach the goal that you set. A question: when have you ever made a solid, high emotion decision? When have you ever made a bad, high emotion decision? I think it's pretty easy. Most of us make high emotion decisions that are bad. They don't tend to work out. We don't come across well. Our attitude is not right. Our motive is not right. So that when we've got high emotions, we tend to make bad decisions. So we've got to keep those emotions unwrapped. Now, here's another type of reaction that is really critical to ruling your results. And it's called raw. So a reaction, repeated accuracy wins. When you know your time, when you know how much time you've got available, and it could shift from week to week, but you know how much time you've got available. When you then go in and plan what? plan when, plan with, and plan wealth, then you start seeing this pattern. You start seeing what's working and what's not working. When you review the notes of your actions and the correlating results, you find out what really progressed you and what held you back. And then you begin to repeat those things that were accurate. You repeat the things that worked over and over again, and you win because you know that it works. Right out of the gate, you just can't know. And it's not fair for you to think that you will know. It's not fair to think that you're going to go out there in your first workout and gain muscle immediately and visibly, or you're going to lose fat immediately and visibly. So the next day you go to work and people are just like, what in the world are you doing? You dropped it overnight. But over time, when you see those results, you know the actions that worked, you know the actions that didn't work. Everything that worked, you repeat. Everything that doesn't work, you scratch and just don't do it. And you've actually got to discover that for yourself. Things that work for me may not necessarily work for you. The things that work for you may not work for me at all. And so as you work and you take your actions, then you've got to be focused on making sure that you repeat the things that are accurate and that allow you to win over time. So control your time, control your destiny, control your thoughts, control your actions, control your reactions. Brutally simple system for unreasonable achievement. And at the beginning, I promised that you get the human time machine. If you go to paulbevans.com/HTMS, then you can create a username and password there. And then once you create that, on the right-hand side of the page, you go down to the about mid-level, you'll see a productivity section and you'll see human time machine. Once you're logged in, if you'll click that link, it'll give you access to the human time machine. I appreciate you guys coming out tonight. Do you have any questions about anything that I covered tonight? Just type those into the question box right there and I'll answer those. As promised, there is no sales. This wasn't leading up to anything. There's no pitch. What I want you to do is I want you to control your time. I want you to control your thoughts. I want you to control your actions. I want you to control your reactions because it will lead to success. It's not simply about setting a goal and making a plan. I think that we've all proven that we tend to quit on those if we're not careful. I think that ruling your results helps it become careful. Helps it become a lot more can't say it. You can actually document what you're doing so that you're able to repeat those over and over and over again. Somebody asked if this is being recorded. Yep, it is. And I'll have that up probably tomorrow and I'll send out an email about it. I've always thought your material is solid. Thank you so much. Got awesome training. Thank you. Do you break the habit of allowing time to rule you without feelings of failure? How do you break the habit of allowing your time to rule you without feelings of failure? You know, when it comes to feeling the failure, I've got to be really looking at, did I really quit? To me, that's what failure is that I actually quit, that I actually gave up. Failure to me is not, it didn't work out as planned. I actually did it. I took the action. Hey, it didn't work. Okay, no big deal. First time I went skiing, snow skiing, when I thought about it, what do you think I visualized? I saw myself going down the steep slopes, smooth, just like I saw on television. What I didn't know is that they were going to put me on the bunny slopes and that I was going to be annihilated in the first 10 feet. But I'd not failed. I just simply didn't know what I was doing at that point. But I at least took the action, right? I would have been a failure if I'd gotten out there or never taken the trip. I just said, hey, I'm just not going. That's much more of a failure when we just quit and decide not to do it. Whereas how I allowed the breaking of the habit is by saying, you know what? I'm just going to go and I'm going to try it. And if it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. There's no problem with that at all. The last link that I mentioned is paulbevans.com/HTMS. paulbevans.com/HTMS. Any other questions tonight? All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming out. I'll have the replay up tomorrow. I'll send that out so you can get that and get the notes. And then if you happen to miss this link at the end, you'll be able to get it then again. All right. You guys be blessed. Take this, plan out your success. Remember that goals are the desired destination. Results are your actual destination. Success is not an accident. Be blessed.